So, should you do a PhD? Hi guys, welcome to The Attic. My name's Mark Jago. I'm a philosophy professor in the UK. In this video, I'm going to try and give you some pointers to think through if you're deciding whether or not you want to do a PhD. So this video is aimed at undergrads, master's level students, or maybe people who have gone on further in life and are wondering, should I have gone back to university to do a PhD? Is it right for me? What are the pros and cons? Now, obviously, I can't tell you for sure whether you should or shouldn't do a PhD. You've got to decide that. So I'm just going to talk you through some pros and cons. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why maybe you should do a PhD and 3 reasons why maybe you shouldn't do a PhD. Okay, if that sounds good to you, do me a favor before we get going. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so why should you do a PhD? Reason number 1, if you want to be an academic, you've got to have a PhD. Okay, pretty much every academic job going has as an essential requirement, this person's got a PhD. Now, you may see some people at universities who are lecturing and they don't have a PhD. Okay, so maybe on a journalism course, there'll be some famous journalists who are lecturing, they haven't got a PhD, or if you're doing a literature course, there might be some famous writers who do a spot of lecturing. In the sciences, you might find some engineers or people like that who have had a career in industry who end up working at a university without a PhD. They really are exceptions to the rule. Pretty much 99% of the time, if you want to be an academic, you've got to do a PhD. Reason number 2 why you should do a PhD. It really enhances your skills. The kind of skills that you learn doing a PhD, as far as I'm concerned, it's like nothing else. You're not going to get those skills pretty much anywhere else. So I'm talking about things like basically being able to take this super big project that perhaps nobody else has thought about. It's something that's entirely your idea, and taking it right the way through from an idea that maybe people think is crazy to an idea that people think, yeah, maybe that can work, to completion where it's finished, it's all written up, and maybe you're going to publish it as papers or a book or whatever. And think about all the skills you need to do that. You need to come up with ideas, you need to manage your time, you need to research all this stuff, you need to be able to convince people that your crazy idea is actually worth funding or 3 years of study or whatever. And then there's the writing skills, okay? Being able to write something that is basically book-shaped, managing your abilities so that you can get that finished on time. Also, dealing with all of the slumps that you get in the middle of the PhD. Pretty much everybody has the second year slump, the existential crisis where you think, what's the point of this? Why am I doing this? All of my friends are making kind of use of their life and I'm just writing on this topic that nobody else cares about. Oh, it's so bad. If you come through the other side of that and you finish your thesis, that really is an incredible skill to be able to have. It really kind of sets you up for all the things you might encounter later in life. Okay, and that brings us on to the 3rd reason why you should do a PhD. It's a massive achievement. It is such an incredible thing to have done a PhD. So it's not just about getting, doctor after your name or before your name. Yeah, that's how it works, isn't it? It's not just about that. It's about the achievement of having spent 3 or 4 or however many years of your life basically developing ideas, writing about ideas that you've come up with, engaging with other academics out there, perhaps the ones that you looked up to as an undergrad student, and saying, look, here's your ideas, but I don't think they work, and here's my ideas, here's my solution, I think they work better, and putting those ideas out there in the world in something that is paper-shaped or book-shaped, that is such a big achievement. So even if you finish your PhD and you don't go on to work as an academic, you don't take those ideas any further in a kind of professional context, it's still a massive achievement that you're going to be proud of for the rest of your life. Okay, so there we have 3 reasons why perhaps you should do a PhD, but what about the reasons why perhaps you shouldn't do a PhD? So I'm going to give you 3 of these reasons, 2 kind of little ones, and then 1 great big one at the end, so make sure you stick around for that one. Okay, so reason number 1 why perhaps you don't want to do a PhD is a practical reason. If you're not going to go into an academic job, or if you end up not in an academic job whether you wanted to or not, it can be a bit pointless having done a PhD. Okay, so it might be that you end up in a job that you could have done with just an undergrad degree and you spent 3 or 4 or 5 years of your life and perhaps a load of money doing this thing that doesn't really help you out with your job, and you're, 3 or 4 or 5 years older and you've got friends who are kind of progressing on quicker than you, and you think, well, I could have done all of that stuff without this PhD. It hasn't really got me anywhere. It might even be a bit of a burden in the sense that you can end up overqualified. Like, so if you've got PhD on your CV and you're applying for a job that doesn't need a PhD, it can look a bit like, here's somebody who would prefer to be an academic because they did a PhD, but they didn't get an academic job. They want this one. Do they really want this job? Do we really want that person working here? Are they going to stick around? So yeah, if you're not going to be an academic, doing a PhD might be a bit pointless, and it can, in some cases, leave you overqualified. Second reason why doing a PhD might not be a good thing for you is it's kind of really slow, okay? So you finish your undergrad, you do your masters, maybe all your friends who you've kind of gone through uni with go off and do fun jobs or have fun lives, and they're getting on in their careers and they're settling down and all this sort of stuff. And you're still basically a student for 3, 4, 5, and maybe if you're doing a postdoc, 6, 7, 8 years. It took me 10 years from the start of my PhD to the point where I had a permanent job. And in that time, all my friends, they kind of went off and did interesting things, and I often looked at their lives and thought, they're really getting places, and I'm still here in the same place kind of each day at my desk writing up my ideas. It's not really going to go anywhere very quick. And that's just how research is. Research is slow. PhD research is really, really slow. It's going to take you years and years and years before you have that PhD, and maybe a few more years before you've got recognition from it, a job from it, or whatever. So if you are going for a PhD, you've got to commit to it and you've got to be in there for the long haul. And you've just got to accept that there's going to be other people, your friends from uni or wherever, who are going to get on quicker in their non-academic careers than you are in your academic career. Okay, third reason why doing a PhD might not be a good idea for you, and I think this is the really important one, getting an academic job is super, super difficult. It's really, really hard. It's super competitive, so there's a high chance that you're going to do your PhD and you might not get an academic job. It's pretty typical for these days for PhD graduates to wait several years, 3, 4, 5 years before they get the kind of academic job that they want. Okay, so you might spend a few years after your PhD doing temporary teaching jobs, which can be really precarious, really badly paid, really insecure. Maybe you get a contracted teaching job, so it's a bit more secure, but it's just for 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever. It's still not the permanent academic job that you want. So something that's going to last longer than 6 months, 12 months, whatever. So just to illustrate how hard it is to get an academic job once you've done your PhD, let me just give you a few numbers. Okay, so I've gone here onto jobs.ac.uk. It's a website that lists pretty much all of the academic jobs, university jobs that are being advertised in the UK right now. I'm just going to look at philosophy because that's my area. It's what I know about. Okay, so if I go and look at philosophy, I see that there's currently 46 jobs advertised, kind of jobs in inverted commas, because 13 of them are PhD studentships, so kind of not really jobs, at least not the jobs that you're going to be getting if you are coming out of a PhD. So of those 33 jobs, 6 of them are in Asia and 40 of them are in Europe. 36 in the United Kingdom. So taking out those PhD studentships, we've basically got 20 jobs advertised in philosophy in the United Kingdom at the moment. A bunch of these jobs aren't jobs that you're going to be applying for as you come straight out of a PhD. So for example, Dean of the School of Law and Social Sciences, you're not going to be a dean when you've just come straight out of your PhD. Associate Head of School in Global Engagement, again, that's not going to be something you're applying for straight out of your PhD. Tutor in painting doesn't sound very much like philosophy to me. I reckon out of that list, there's about 10 jobs that are available to a wide range of recently graduated philosophy PhDs. These adverts, they span about a month, so, there's going to be a different number of adverts at different times of the year, but let's say it's roughly 10 a month, so there's going to be something in the region of 100 to 150 philosophy jobs available in the UK to recently minted PhDs per year. Okay, so 150 jobs available, but the other thing to notice from these ads is just how specific they are. Let's just take a look again. Okay, so just looking at the first three we've got here, lecturer in logic and or philosophy of science, that's the first one. Lecturer in applied and interdisciplinary ethics, and lecturer in artificial intelligence. Okay, so they are very, very specific things. If your PhD was in logic or philosophy of science, great for you, you can apply for that first one. If your PhD was in applied or interdisciplinary ethics, good for you, you can apply for that second one. And if your PhD was in artificial intelligence, there's a job advertised there for you. But only one. Chances are, whatever your PhD was, there's only going to be one of those that you could apply for. Some of these jobs are open. That means they're just generically in philosophy and anyone with a philosophy PhD could apply for them. But there aren't many like that. So out of those 150 jobs advertised each year, there might be something like 10% that you can actually apply for. So maybe 15, 20 jobs per year that you could apply for. So against those numbers, we'd have to set how many philosophy PhD graduates are there going to be coming out each year competing for those jobs. I don't actually know, and I guess it really depends, it varies year by year, but just have a look at this. So here I've got the Oxford Philosophy website. Let's just look at their DPhil students. So the DPhil is like the Oxford PhD, same thing. There are loads and loads of current DPhil students at Oxford. I think there's about 60 something of them. That's a 2-year degree. So approximately half of them are going to be graduating in any 1 year. Okay. So 30 students graduating with a PhD, a DPhil, just from Oxford. There's also going to be a whole bunch of students graduating from Cambridge. That's probably the second best place to do philosophy in the UK. St Andrews, that's a really great place to do philosophy in the UK. Lots and lots and lots of students graduating each year. Probably between Oxford and Cambridge and St Andrews, those graduating students in a year would fill the available number of jobs in philosophy in the UK. Plus, there's all those graduates from the US who are applying for UK jobs because, you know, the US job market is just as bad as it is in the UK. So I want to be really clear here. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do a PhD because it's too hard to get a job. And I'm not saying that if you don't go to Oxford, you don't go to Cambridge, you don't go to a Russell Group university, you can't get a job. You can. People do each year. It just gets harder. There is this large conception in academia in general that the higher ranked the university, that is Oxford, Cambridge, the better you are as a PhD graduate. Now that might not be true, it's probably not true, but that is what employers think. And that means if you don't go to one of those top ranked universities for your PhD, it's going to be much harder for you to get a job. So I didn't want to finish this video on a downer by making it sound like you're never going to get a job. Every year people get jobs, right? In philosophy, in academia in general, there are jobs out there and people get them from all different kind of universities. It's just that it's hard. And I really wanted to get that point across. I wanted to make it really, really clear so that you don't go into a PhD thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to finish this PhD and there'll be a job waiting for me. It's really, really difficult to get a job and it might take a long time. So if you're thinking about doing a PhD, I want you to think about that really carefully before you jump in. Okay guys, I hope you found this information useful. If you have, do me a favor, give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications, leave me a question down in the comments. I try to reply to all of them. Thanks once again, and I hope to see you back here on Attic Philosophy.